HelloFresh is the sponsor of today's video. If you like easy-to-make meals with lovely printed cards telling you how to make them, HelloFresh is a great way to go. Fresh from farm, straight to your door, delicious, nutritious meals following any sort of dietary restrictions. And you can use the code BENTO10FM10?
No!
BENTO10FM.
Yes!
BENTO10FM at checkout at HelloFresh.com. And you can use the code BENTOFM10 at checkout.
No!
BENTO10FM. BENTO10FM at checkout to get 10 free meals with your subscription. So thank you, HelloFresh, for making food easy to make, delicious to consume, and for gifting 10 free meals to those that use the code BENTO10FM at checkout when you go to HelloFresh.com.
Sure is Zarbon in here.
Kaiser,
Hi, Nick. What? Hi, what?
we got more episodes of Daima.
Oh, we do?
More episodes came out.
Yeah, what are these episodes?
We got episode 13, surprise! And episode 14, taboo.
Okay.
They dropped since we last talked. And so we should talk about those in order to be actually caught up, maybe. I don't know.
Actually, I think technically 13 dropped before we last talked, like a day or two before.
Yeah, the day we talked.
Yeah.
And then 14 dropped Friday. So let's talk about those, because I actually rather liked both of these episodes for different reasons.
Okay, so I'm halfway there with you.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, it's going to be obvious which one I didn't like immediately, but...
Okay. Then let's start by talking about episode 13, which is, funny enough, as we were talking about, like, the difference between GT and Daima, you were saying that GT was much more, like, episodic near the beginning, focusing on, like, little adventures, and that's what episode 13 was to me.
Yeah.
I mean, it smacked immediately of B Planet, just because, you know, giant insects, giant everything, and while it didn't quite have the same level of whimsy, I still really enjoyed it as just like a small little slice of an adventure where our heroes are having to deal with a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids planet, which is labeled the second most dangerous planet in all of the Demon Realm.
Which I think is very interesting.
I think it's cool. I like the idea that there are creatures out there so massive that, yes, I'm certain if our heroes decided to use lethal force, they could kill things in this society, but they are so massive that if they aren't willing to put out that kind of force, a child is an incredibly dangerous threat to them.
Yeah, that's... So the show is kind of, like, definitely plays a little bit with the sort of peril that our main characters can be in, what's actually a danger to them and what's not. And they're, again, it's like you said, if they got serious, if they used lethal force, they could probably deal with these guys.
Yeah, they could crack open their heads like an egg with a big blast.
Yeah, but it's interesting that they don't, and it's very interesting. Like, it's definitely the writers being like, okay, we need to make lethal force seem like the wrong thing to do here, so we can really cause trouble for our main characters. Because there's a lot of stuff here where you're just thinking, I'm sorry, Super Saiyan alone should be able to, like, handle a lot of this if they just got serious.
Yeah, if they decided to. Like, they could easily end these threats, well, specifically the threat in this episode, but then you have to imagine what happens if everything on this planet suddenly turns against them. Like, what sort of extermination force would there be for something like, because on this planet, their size kind of ranges. Like, they look kind of like they're about the size of, like, a large housefly, and then they, like, also seem like they could be the size of a flea. They're essentially the size of a bug compared to everything else on this planet.
Yeah, the show is a little nebulous with how big they actually are, because
it's not that big of a scale. It's not like, oh, they're they're a house mouse size. They're roughly bug sized, basically. So the scale kind of shifts between what they're facing up against.
Yeah, between being basically like as big as a roach versus being the size of a flea. Yeah, those are two very different sizes, y'all. But whatever. Like it facilitated some funny moments, and also like one of my favorite shots in the entire episode, which is just Goku in the fur of the dog.
Yeah, I loved that transition where it's like, okay, we have to deal with this dog because the stakes of the episode is their plane is broken and they need to stop to fix it on this big old planet full of like giant vegetation and animals. So they can't just get away. They need that plane because they have several people with them that can't fly. So.
Oh, which by the way, another plane down.
Yep, another plane down.
Yeah, another plane down. They kind of reference it this time, but I'm sorry. You're just not doing enough with the joke for this running joke to be funny to me. I'm sorry. It just kind of feels like you're just doing it again. God damn it.
It doesn't even feel like a joke to me. It's just kind of a plot device. And for what we got, an episode that admittedly I actually really enjoyed, I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
like,
no.
The good stakes. You have like these little tiny marmots that are running up on them, essentially giant hamsters. And Goku, Vegeta's like, why don't you just kill them? Goku's like, I don't want it. That seems mean.
Oh, sorry. I should mention earlier, they were ticks, not fleas. I know someone's going to leave a comment about that, but yeah, they were technically ticks. But yeah, Goku's saying, I don't want to hurt the poor little animals, which, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Sure, Goku.
This is a more mature
that.
Goku. This is a more mature Goku. It's not like tiny kid Goku's like, I would also have very much bought it if he went the round of dinner,
Oh man, that would have been sort of funny all on its own. I love, by the way, I have to mention that I am not the biggest fan of modern Toriyama's art in terms of a lot of his character designs. I feel like he went way too oversimplified in like the later years. And here we're seeing a little bit of that like with the Giants. It's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do here, but it just kind of feels like a lot of his like later designs are just round. Everything's round.
They're giant yellow non-spiky Dodorias.
Yeah, but still, it's a funny design. The Giants design is very funny, and I genuinely, this is one of like my favorite. Weirdly enough, it's one of my favorite episodes of the show in a way.
I felt the same way, honestly, as I was watching it. Like, it's not that this episode has had many down episodes for me, but this is one of those quick, cheeky little adventures that I'm about. I liked it.
Yeah,
especially because, like, they're dealing with these hamsters. Then all of a sudden they're interrupted by this trembling earthquake force of a child walking home from school.
And
with his dog. A boy and his dog is the threat. And
Neva's inclusion here, best addition to their cast so far, because he's just over here telling you all this information about all of these things. And I really do like the way that he goes about it, because the moment he realizes where they are, he freaks the hell out.
This is bad. This is the second most dangerous planet we could be on right now, guys.
Which the fact that the most dangerous one is one with basically giga
even
versions.
Bigger people.
Yeah, which that is. There's a comedy to that is very subtle in that scene that I kind of appreciate.
It's funny because it's like you get to the point where once something becomes so big, they almost stop being a threat because they're too big to notice you even.
A little bit. It's sort of that whole, a flea is in less of a danger than the spider, right?
It reminded me of, in a good way, Ant-Man Quantum Mania, where it's like, okay, at what points, like, when you're shrinking down, like, how do you enter, like, the tiny universe without being a giant, Like, you have to, like, how do you enter something at scale like that?
Yeah. But I think one of the things that really helps this episode and takes it from being something that could have been sort of infuriating in the fact that it barely moved the plot at all to something that I actually genuinely just enjoyed was the art and animation in this one. Mm-hmm. Because holy shit, they go so hard. Everything, like the scope, the size, it's all communicated with really, really good animation. Like when characters are falling from places, like Goku falling into the school bag.
Yeah.
That was really well done.
You just see him like falling past these snacks and school books and getting wedged between a couple of papers as he's like slowing his fall on them.
That is so like whoever boarded that sequence, whoever was like, yeah, then this is what's going to happen. Yeah, very, very good. Very imaginative. Worked very well with that. And yeah, just all the artists and animators on this one are just pumping it out. Like one of my favorite shots in the entire episode is just at the very beginning when they show up on the planet and they're looking around at these blues and these greens. And for the first time in the show, to be completely honest with you, it sort of felt like we were actually exploring what the premise of the show is. Like the Demon World Wonderland, like this whole completely alien place. Because it felt like in the other times that we've explored the demon realm, it did feel like we were in a different place, but it sort of also felt like we were in...
It's just more wastelands. Just more wastelands.
It was wastelands, and it's like, oh, well, there's a hotel, there's a bar, but it didn't feel all that alien. It felt different. It felt
Dragon Quest.
Yeah, a little bit. And it wasn't eliciting any sense of wonder or like, oh, wow, this is such a strange place.
Alien place, yeah.
Yeah, no, it just kind of feels like, oh, we're in just a fantasy setting now. A kind of dreary fantasy setting. And here, it's like, oh, no, we are in a place that with giant, like, not only is it a giant place, but it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. And that I really appreciated that.
And I love the way they play with, like, the mundanity of it. That boy's walking around eating a grilled kraken. Like, it's just an after-school snack for him, those giant things that were about to eat them. And he's just on his way home from school with his dog. He sits down to have a snack, and the dog gets curious about all the noises that are happening. And he's just sniffing around, being a pup, looking at them. He's like, hey, what's that shiny thing? I'm gonna go get it. And Goku's like, oh, shit, it's gonna break our ship. And he has to fire a Kamehameha into the side of the dog. And like you were saying with the, just kind of like the art style, the animation, the transitions, that moment where Goku flies into the fur is such a cool transition. Because like you immediately understand what's going on and you kind of get what's about to happen. He's about to get attacked by the little bugs on the dog. I loved that.
It's so good. Also that Kamehameha that he does. I love the stank that this show puts on every Kamehameha.
The impacts in this show are... Mwah.
Yeah, it's kind of great because it definitely felt like, say in GT, almost none of the Kamehameha in those look very good at all. Like some of them looked all right, but in here, every single one of them is busted out in a very specific moment and they look really good. And it's just, yeah, I noticed that. It's also, it was a little bit funny to me. A little bit funny that he's like, oh no, I'm not going to make it in time. So I'm going to stop and charge a beam. And that the beam will go faster than my flying will. Okay, all right.
I partly expected him to go like Super Saiyan there or something. Vegeta busts out Super Saiyan pretty quick because these things are big enough that I guess that's just relative threat scaling. So they get once they hit the dog and the dog yelps out, they get the attention of the boy, who is now very curious because it's just like, oh, little bugs. What's this fun little toy they have? And he starts like trying to swat at them and Goku's having to like battle him. Imagine swatting at a fly and it stopping your attack. That like the boy's just like, the hell?
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah, it's honestly, so a lot of the feedback that I saw about this episode was mixed. There are some people who feel a little bit closer to how I feel, and there are other people who feel like this is the weakest episode of the show. And on one hand, like, I fully believe that this is one of the better, and just in that it more outwardly fulfills the premise of the show, and the art and animation really, really sell all of it.
Yeah, some of y'all just don't like fun, man. I saw some people in our first episode commenting that they don't like Hibis. Some of you just don't like fun.
Actually, I can see not liking Hypus, but that's beside the point. I mean, no, it's exactly the point. But when it comes to this episode, I can understand that the fact that it doesn't move anything. Like, the only thing of consequence to the plot that happens in this episode is, well, there are two things. One, we're introduced to Magilite, which I'm not sure how much that's going to play into the plot later on.
I have a note on that, but go ahead.
And the second thing is Degasu has to shut down the fish.
Yeah, he turns off the fish. Nobody's ever done that before. They have a massive switch for it just to do it, but...
I found that so interesting. Why the switch? Like, that's very interesting to me that they have a switch for it. They have like a lever that they pull.
Again, I think it's something about the like taking the sacred and making it mundane that's just a big thing of Dragon Ball. But
That is true, and that's why I didn't dislike it. And when I saw that, I was like, they have a lever for him. That's funny. That's weird. But that, again, I didn't dislike that. I just thought that was peculiar. And you're right. That is just taking something magical and mystical. This gate to other dimensions, and there's just a lever over here. You pull it to shut it down.
fish go sleepy.
Also, like, gorgeous scene. Like, again, the color work in this episode is so damn good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I liked it a lot, and even though it barely moved the plot, it was really entertaining, so I was sort of okay with that.
Yeah, I liked all the little character moments, too. Like, Hybis, who's just, like, chilling there. It's like, hey, I need a boost. You, be my bench.
And if it were anyone but the king's daughter, he probably would have told them to fuck off. But
then he's just sitting there the whole time as Bulma and her just like standing on him having a conversation. And I loved Bulma being super industrious, finding this new source of energy and being like, hey, if you help me get some of these, I'll build you a few ships for free. And like she's literally setting up a way to get clean energy for her plans. Like, if I keep building them ships, they'll keep sending me this stuff. I'll be fucking rich. I love the industrious nature of Bulma.
Yeah, Bulma hasn't had a whole lot of focus in the show, but she's been good. She's been good.
Yeah.
Like, I do think that my favorite thing about this show so far is just it feels like all of its characters are likable. Where in GT and Super, they struggled with that a little bit. Sometimes certain characters were more likable than others, and I definitely think it's coming down to all of the writing. The writing here feels the most Toriyama that any of the anime have ever felt, that where like it wasn't based immediately off of the manga.
Yeah, and I've been enjoying this show throughout. I am glad that these last two episodes were like a little more episodic. Episode 14 being a bit more plot and exposition heavy, which I actually didn't mind. I kind of liked what they explained in it, but I haven't felt like any of that pacing ache that I was worried about once I got all caught up from the binge. I am still like, I want more.
I am fascinated that in episode 14 you didn't feel a pacing ache, because I wanted to put a goddamn bullet in my head because of this episode. I hate this episode. I hate this episode so much.
You don't like Beta Ginyu Force?
I hate the Beta Ginyu Force. I hate them with a passion. They immediately put me off.
I'll admit I'm not a huge fan of them, mostly because they just look a little too samey. Like, they need something to vary up their designs a bit more than hairstyle and where they wear their ears.
Yeah, I just think that, one, their designs are incredibly boring for being what they are. If for being normal soldiers, they were fine. I was okay with them. I didn't have really a positive or negative reaction to them. I was just like, oh, okay, they're the gendarmerie, they're the elite royal guard, they're just mooks. But now it's like, okay, we're going to have an entire episode where we introduce you to the special elite mooks, and they're just
basically the same mooks with like only
different
two of
body
them
shapes.
seem actually distinct.
Yeah, they have different body shapes, and that's kind of it.
The leader stands out the least out of all of them, which is the weird thing.
Yeah, and also, why are we doing a parody of the Ginyu Force, who was a parody of Super Sentai? Why are we
I will say I did like the scene with them in the store. I liked that scene.
I would have liked that scene if the pacing weren't garbage. Like, it takes so long to get to the joke, and like everything that happens in it, it's not that funny, and the payoff is not that funny. Like, turns out,
we can't afford the kids' snack, so here you can have those stuff that you were going to get. But I do like that it kind of gives them a bit of character. They aren't just these asshole guards. They're trying to be cool. They're trying to be role models, even though Majin Ku and Majin Du are almost certainly amplitude stronger than them.
Oh yeah, no, I don't dislike the idea of the scene, but the pacing was just so slow and boring. I don't know what it was with this episode, because it's boarded very well in terms of like the boarding and everything, and the art and animation, everything's fine. But when it came to like what happened in this episode was they find out that the fish is shut down.
The fish is sleepy.
And Goku gets knocked out by the gate. Neva opens the gate. We're introduced to this Ginyu Force Beta, and we have the scene in the diner. Those are not the diner, the convenience store. Those are what happens, but it feels like all of them are just so slow. And
I will give it some flowers in the fact that I really liked the way it presented Neva in this.
Yes,
I liked the mystical aspect of everything, like him casting these spells, showing how strong Namekian magic can be. And the fact that this guy's been around for so long, he was the one that gated these places off because he wanted his people to live in peace. And eventually that just kind of threw things out of balance anyway. They all left. They got exploited regardless. And he's just been playing this long game against the ruling class.
so I love Neva. I think he's like the best addition like to this cast when it comes to giving us information about this universe. He is such a great character for that. He's funny. He's also really like he nails that perfect mixture of being funny when he needs to be, but also weirdly like what's the term? Mysterious, enigmatic. You get the sense about him like there's definitely stuff that he's not telling you, and you're just wondering, is there a sinister bent
Whose side is he on?
Yeah, but the fact that he goes into, we closed things off because we didn't want the other realms coming to our place because we have they basically have the nicest place.
Yeah, they had the demons, like they had the bandit demons on one side and the oppressive regime on the other. It's like, come on, man, I need a gated neighborhood. Stop.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that they were like, you know what? We're done with people bossing us around. We're closing off our world. And that's great. What this show has done for the Namekians is so cool. Mm-hmm. Which I thought I wish
Piccolo were a little more involved, but
yeah, it's a little weird there. But then again, it's hard to get Piccolo involved without kind of making
because he's a warrior. Like, he's not that magic Namekian.
Yeah, and even if he's got Kami inside of him, it's just been so long. I like Neva. I like Neva in this episode. What I did not like was Goku falling for half an episode.
Yeah, it did feel weird that Neva had to cast the spell twice, and he chose the one that, like, he chose the upper one instead of the one Goku was plummeting towards first. Felt kind of weird, but
yeah, it's so weird.
Although, can I point out the fucking soundtrack during that point?
Oh yeah,
I loved it. That mysterious sort of like whooshy sound. I hadn't heard anything like it in the show before, or at least not presented this way. That fucking drew me in. I'm like, ooh, this feels mystical, mysterious. I'm vibing with this. I fucks with that.
The soundtrack for the show is good and great when it needs to be. It hasn't been the most memorable for me, but when it hits really good.
And that part hit real well.
Yeah, I like for me the soundtrack has been fulfilling its job, and yeah, it does exactly what it's supposed to do here. But beyond that, yeah, Goku falling was really bad. I'm sorry. At what point was the writer like, is this enough time for him to fall? This should be enough time for him to fall, right? And it's like, no, that was not enough time for him to fall. The fact that he's falling for like over a minute, he should have hit that barrier like way sooner. It didn't make any.
Although we've seen that Dragon Ball plays with time scaling so much, man.
I know, but
I'm willing to suspend my disbelief there.
I was more okay with it when I was a kid watching a show that was based off a manga that did it because it had to. I am now watching as an adult in a show where people aren't stretching things out for the time with writers with years of experience. So no, I don't excuse it. I think it's bad. It's bad.
I'll defend this episode. I liked the way it presented its exposition in this episode. I did not hate Beta Ginyu Force. I'm not a huge fan of their designs. Like we said, they're just not striking or memorable enough, but I think that's almost kind of the point, which I don't know. I guess maybe it shouldn't have been that way.
If you were going to make that the joke, they needed to be like in the first core. They needed to be like if they had been like a Team Rocket that had been around for a while, yeah, maybe. I would have been way more okay with that because them being generic mooks but thinking that they're hot shit like, first of all, then at least you would have, if they'd have been introduced early on, then their designs being sort of samey wouldn't have been such a big problem, because at least they would have been unique at that point. At that point, we would have been like, oh, that's what these guys look like. And even if the other ones look like them, at least we're introduced to these ones as sort of like the main guys. But
as opposed to being kind of like generic compared to the generic troops we've already seen.
But we are in the third act, y'all. This is we're entering Endgame here. This is supposed to, like, the next stretch of episodes is the end. Why are we getting introduced to these generic dudes here? It sucks.
I'll be interested to see what they do with them. Like, it's clear that they're a joke. But, you know, even though you say Goku is falling for half an episode, the commercial break is over after the gates are open. Like, he only falls for essentially a quarter of an episode, if I'm going to be fair.
Oh, that makes it that much. Yeah, that makes it okay, I guess.
This episode did feel like 2 episodes.
It felt like one. It felt like half of one.
Really?
Okay.
Okay.
No.
The first half of the episode is Neva explaining the gates and stuff like that, getting introduced to the Beta Ginyu Force, and him eliminating the gates. The second half of the episode are people reacting to, oh shit, the gates are open, and the Beta Ginyu Force at the convenience store with the boys, and them getting to the planet, losing another plane.
Oh yeah, and now that plane is gone, and I think we're done. Are we done with planes? Are we done with planes?
I think we're done with planes.
God,
at this point, because it feels like we're in a bit of like a climax.
Yeah.
Because they're running away from the army, which is blasting at them. We got another fun Hibis moment where Bulma looks at him with concerns, like, "Can you fly?" It's like, "Why do you need me to carry you?" No, I'll have Vegeta carry me. He's like, "Oh, thank God."
I didn't know Hibis could fly. I'm glad he can. Obviously,
it feels like everybody in Demon World learns how.
Yeah. That being said, look, it's not okay. It's not that this episode felt like it was half an episode for me. If you take everything that's in it, it is a full episode's worth of material, but the pacing for it and the actual, like, it's just dragged out in this weird way. Every scene feels like there's just a little bit too much for every shot. Like, the introduction to the Beta Ginyu Force, right?
That was drawn out. That was too long.
Yeah. And weirdly enough, there was a part of me that was frustrated because on one hand, they did the joke that I was hoping that they would do. Like when they unleash all the bullets all over the place and start blasting. I was like,
they
wait.
Break everything?
Yeah, aren't they just destroying this lobby? And then, yeah, at the very end, Goma's like, hey, and by the way, you're paying for destroying my lobby. And I'm like, oh, good. That was the joke. That was what they were doing.
I am a little surprised that they characterized Goma the way they did, though, where he's just like kind of accepting of the way they are rather than being that strict, petulant little shit that he's been presented as.
They just repeated the joke with Frieza, by the way. They repeated
yeah.
the one where they do all the poses and then he's blushing. Why would you repeat that joke? It worked.
I think maybe it's just bad member berries.
Maybe, but like this is one of those moments because this is the third Sentai, technically fourth if you want to include the Cooler's Armored Squadron, the fourth Sentai parody that we've had in Dragon Ball. I'm not going to include the Magical Girls because they're Magical Girl parodies. So not only
I forgot about those super guys.
Yeah, between the Pride Troopers, Ginyu Force,
and the actual Sentai crew in the team, tournament.
Yeah, it is just a little frustrating because it's like you're the worst ones. You're the worst version of this, and not only do you feel like a bad parody of Sentai, you're a bad parody of the other parody of Sentai we've already had. Like, what?
I'm willing to give them a chance to see what they actually do with these characters because I did enjoy that stupid little convenience store scene, like them trying to be role models to these little kids, like trying to live up to the image that they're presenting. I think there's something there, and I'm willing to see how it develops.
I guess.
That said, their introduction is meh. I'm not going to say that this is like one of the best episodes. It's far from it, but I don't hate it the way you do.
Yeah, I think I might be a little hyperbolic because at the end of the day, while
that's fine. We're making a YouTube video.
Yeah, I know, right? While I do have a distinct dislike for it, and it's a dislike that kind of hits on a very fundamental level, like in terms of it kind of failed for me in so many fundamental places that it just frustrates me, because the show has had its problems. It's got a ton of problems. But like this one was the one where I was just like, you're making problems the show has not made up until this point. So I don't know.
It's clear that we're kind of in this position in the show where we're at kind of like a little like calm before the storm. It feels like we end off on this climactic, like them being chased by the entire army. So we're going to get maybe some shades of Red Ribbon here. We're going to, we're hurtling towards the confrontation between Arnisu with Ku and Du and
wait, with who?
Ku and Du.
No,
Dooku.
before that.
Arnisu?
Anisu.
Right?
It's just Anisu, not Arnisu.
I thought there was an R in it for some reason. Whatever. But we're heading towards that because they have the Dragon Balls. Glorio is...
No, Arinsu. Okay, we were both wrong. It's Arinsu. Arinsu.
Okay, my bad. Whatever. Titty Witch. They're heading towards that. I think the next episode, from what I understand, is called Evil Eye, or The Third Eye. So we're finally going to get that. And now I'm thinking you're probably right. The thing on his belt is that eye.
I want it to be that so bad. That would be one of the better jokes in the show for me, just because they've never drawn attention to it besides the one time. So yeah, I think it's eyeball. Yeah, because, and the thing that, okay, I will say this, it does bother me a little bit that Goma hasn't brought it up again. Like, it feels like we've gone several episodes without him talking about the third eye. And it's sort of like, wait, so how important was that? And what is it? What does it do? Like, it is a little bit weird that, like, hey, it's mentioned, but we have no idea what it does or how important it actually is. And the show sort of just kind of gives up on it. It's sort of up to the audience to remember that that was a thing. And that's sort of Rocky storytelling. In fact, it's like I said, I feel like Goma has been the most underutilized character in this, and he's ostensibly been like the big overarching guy in this. I know that Ku and Du are probably going to be the big final villain via Arinsu, which that's cool. I like that. That's a great setup, and I'm wondering how Goma and the Third Eye are going to play into that. But
I have a theory. Like, I think the way this next episode is going to develop is they're going to get separated somehow while they're fleeing the army. Hybis is going to get captured. And, like, the Beta Ginyu force is going to have him and that eyeball. And, they'll be questioning him. Maybe they'll figure out what it is. Maybe they'll talk to Goma, and he'll be like, oh, my God, that's the thing I want. But that's where I think it's going to go. Meanwhile, everybody else is going to get sidetracked by the Arnisu bit. So,
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see where it pans out. That said, I am happy with these episodes. Like, the episode 13, yes, by far superior, but I did not hate episode 14 with its exposition and world-expanding lore through Neva. I loved that mystical music that was going on when he was doing that magic, showing the scale of magic. I liked it. It, even through all of its faults, which it did have many faults, as you have pointed out.
And let it be like clear, the good stuff in this episode I really liked. Like, there are things in the episode, like you said, everything with Neva, fucking fantastic. I love that.
I'm surprised that Goma didn't notice him when he was looking at the footage. Like, the first thing he saw was that Goku was there, and he didn't notice clearly the old Namekian man falling with them, and didn't look at it and go like, that traitorous motherfucker.
I wonder if he even knows that Neva can do that.
Well, the thing, like, I mean, he saw Neva with them is the thing.
Yeah.
Like, in that footage. And I found it funny that nobody made note of it.
Yeah. It's also, why haven't they gone after Arinsu? Because they know what Arinsu's doing.
They don't. Like, she's been very secret. They don't know that she's after the Dragon Balls.
Yeah, they do. They do. They established that when they looked out the fucking window and no, they didn't look out a window. They saw Ku fighting the Tamagami. They know.
But did they know that he was with her?
Yeah. It's established.
I guess I blanked that out of my mind.
Yeah, no, they know. They've been known for several episodes. They know that what Arinsu is. They may not know exactly what Arinsu is planning, but they know what she's been doing with the Tamagami and Kuindu. They know.
Maybe they just assumed that she was getting it so that, like, these guys who are clearly beating the other Tamagami can't.
Maybe, but also ask, check, go, like, hey, Arinsu, come in here. We need to talk. They haven't done shit. It's like,
What's with these kids you got?
yeah, it's really weird. It's weird, and I like this show, but the storytelling's bad. It's got some good moments to it. The moment-to-moment stuff
it's not bad enough to take me out of it, though.
The moment-to-moment stuff is fine. The character stuff is good. The animation and art have been great. But damn, its writing is so messy. It really feels more first draft than God. Toriyama's week-to-week manga.
Look, I'll be honest. If this show can stick the landing, it might be my second or third favorite Dragon Ball.
If it can nail the ending, which would be very interesting to see, I'm very curious how this climax is going to pan out. If the ending is really good, I would be happy with that, and I think I'd already kind of placed it over GT for me.
Oh,
but
yeah, it's already well above GT.
Yeah, but I don't know.
I think at the moment, I still think at the moment I'm sitting like, this is probably better than Super.
Its presentation is like the best of Super is like the best of Super might hit alongside the best of Daima, but Daima on average is better than 90% of Super. So
yeah, it's just I think like the biggest advantage it has is just the pacing. Like Super has some immensely high highs. Like there are some hype ass moments in Super. But as far as like an adventure show where there's still some like really sick action, I think Daima's stronger in my opinion.
The action on average is pretty good, and in terms of just the, again, episode to episode feeling, while I might have been disappointed with this one, there was never a point where I'm like, oh God, do I even want to tune in next week? Because Super got that out of me, yo. Like, Super had to drag me along by being a huge Dragon Ball fan for me to get to some of its good stuff. Like, if I were a normal person watching Super, I don't know if I would have been able to manage that.
Yeah, I skipped massive chunks of the Tournament of Power and Goku Black. I skipped massive chunks of those.
I wouldn't skip anything like that. But yeah.
I respect my time too much.
But yeah, so these two episodes, they were good. Okay, one was really good to me, and then the other one was heavily flawed and frustrating.
Yeah, one is one of my favorite episodes of the show so far. The other one, I think, is still above par.
Yeah.
Or below par. I don't know. I think below par is better, but that sounds worse.
I mean, I think people use above par for...
It's better than the average show that I've seen.
Because people say subpar when something's, like, bad, right? So.
True, but when I think par, I think golf. I don't know. Either way, it's above average.
Yeah.
Above average. I like this position. I like its use of it, like that. I keep going back to that song. Hi, Mr. Steak.
I am very curious for the OST to finally be released. By the way, do you know? Do you know?
Probably not.
The whole thing with the opening?
Is it the Akira and Tori thing that you were talking about?
No. This is something I didn't mention last time, and this is really curious because we haven't gotten a full version of the opening released online, and we might never get a full version of the opening because, and this was like this has been known for a while. I just forgot to bring it up. The opening is from an American artist who repurposed an existing song he had for this show.
Interesting.
Yeah, there's a if you go online, is it Zed? I think the artist is Zed. The existing version of his song that he made with a female vocalist that is very different in terms of the way it's sung and the dialogue. But the original song, like all the actual instrumental, is exactly the same.
So and he just went in and kind of like re-lyricized it, essentially?
Yeah. Oh, and something you might also not have noticed, the singers in the opening are both guys. I did not know that. I thought it was
hear that.
Yeah, after there are a couple of artists online where I've male artists who can hit that high note and sound But yeah, no, I didn't know. I thought I was a guy and a girl, and like, nope,
Yeah,
it's both.
it's a guy in falsetto for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, so that's a fun fact. I'm hoping that we get a full version of it, because I would love to hear what they would do for a full version. But considering it is a repurposed existing track, I don't know if we ever will.
So there's like some licensing weirdness to it, even though it's the same artist. Yeah.
I think it's not so much a licensing problem, but why would you make a full version? If you like, because full versions usually exist because what they do is they say either they license an existing song from a band in Japan, or they tell them, hey, make a new song for this show, but make sure that it can be formatted to fit that 1 minute 30-second time frame that we always have. For this one, it's already they only needed it for the opening bit. And again, they just went through and just revoiced all of it. It's weird. I don't know if we'll ever get a full version. I hope we do, but
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see in the future. But as it stands,
sorry, one other thing about the next episode.
Huh?
There was supposed to be a big live showing in California.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that got canceled. But it was it's apparently a pretty big episode. They were like, yeah, we're gonna have an event for this one. So
with the episode title that I saw drop, that doesn't shock me, because that is like the MacGuffin that they were mentioning previously. So
yeah, I'm
We'll
very
see.
curious if they do something weird. I'm hoping personally that they go crazy in this last third. I want them to do something like, what the fuck?
well,
Because
they still have those fusion bugs out there. Like there's gonna be a lot of shit happening.
yeah, and I'm oh god, please give Piccolo something to do. I love Piccolo.
hope
Give
so.
him something to do. Why is our boy here if you're not gonna let him do nothing?
Yeah, he had fewer lines than Ibis in both of these episodes.
But yeah, so yeah, let's here's hoping. I'm excited about next week's episode.
Yeah, same here. 2 thumbs up from me, 1.5 from you. We'll take those. We take those.
But yeah, so those were episodes. Was it 14 and 15 or 13 and 14?
13, 14. But what did you think
Yeah,
of
tell
the
us-
episodes? Call to action, something, etc. Like, share, subscribe.
Yeah, get in those comments. Tell us all your opinions. Tell me I'm wrong about Stephanie Nadolny again. Go ahead. I dare you.
Comment about my hair more. I like hearing about it.
Sorry, I lost the beard. Some people were being very, very sweet about the beard. I had to cut it down just because it was getting a little too out of control, but I appreciate all y'all's nice comments about the beard. It made me feel very good. Thank you.
All right. Anyway, bye.
Bye.